Thank you so much, Harakon. Good evening, everyone. We're approaching Shavuos. We're approaching Matan Torah. Interesting medrash that when the Bnei Yisrael heard Hashem speak, they retreated 12 miles, or Yud Beis Mil, whatever that distance was. And Malachim had to come down and bring them back to Har Sinai. I think that part of the reason may have been that Moshe Rabbeinu told the people, Hashem is going to come down and he's going to speak to you. Everybody was all fired up with enthusiasm. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to come down and we're going to hear such enormous spiritual messages. They were ready for this great revelation of spirituality. And Hashem tells them, Lo tignov, don't be a thief. Lo tirtzach, don't kill. Lo tinov, don't be an adulterer. And they said, who are you talking to? This is what we came to hear. This is what you think of us. And so they ran back 12 miles. And the Malachim had to drag him back. No, you have to listen to this. You have to listen to this. In the introduction, you were told that there's something that I may be specially equipped to give some messages. There's some truth to that. Because probably what I can tell you could be told by any Rov, by any Mashgiach in the yeshiva. The problem is that sometimes when you hear a Rov or a Mashgiach in yeshiva give these kinds of messages, you say, what do you want? He's talking party line. That's what he's got to talk. Yeah. That's all he knows. Well, you can't accuse me of that. First of all, I'm not interested in party line. Secondly, I've been in a lot of places. One of the Mefarshim cite the posik that Shlomo HaMelech says, Tov lishmoa garas chochem me'ish shomea shir kesilim. It's better to hear the reprimand of a wise person. And the translation is, rather than to listen to the songs of fools. So he pointed out that's not what the posuk says. If that's what the posuk wanted to say, where it said, Tov lishmoya garas chacham milishmoya shir kesilim. What the posuk says is, it's best to hear the reprimand of a wise person, Me'ish shemei asher kesilim, if he was also a person who heard the shir kesilim, a person who also heard the other kinds of songs, the other kinds of messages. So I want to tell you, I've heard them all. Okay. Whatever you want to come up with in secular studies, I won't say that I'm that well versed, but I'm certainly not ignorant of them. So I'm a little bit different than a Rebbe, Rosh Yeshiva, or Mashgiach. And that's why I think that I'd like you to listen to what I have to say tonight. And it's not because of gaiva, because of vanity that I say that what I tell you tonight may be the most important thing you'll ever hear the rest of your life. That's how important it is. You know, we're talking about adolescence. So first let me just say a word about adolescence, a very, very strange period of life. The Torah doesn't understand it. You know? In Torah we have two phases of life. A person is a koton, is a minor, and then at one moment there's a transition for a young man on his 12th, at the end of his 12th year, a young woman at the end of her 11th year, and there's an immediate transition with one moment day to night, where a kotan becomes a godel, a minor becomes an adult. The reason this is important was because I was once called to the emergency room many years ago, and there was a young man sitting there, and I sat down next to him and I said, can you tell me what your problem is? So he sat there silently. So I asked him again and again. He said nothing. I said, you know, I'll sit here with you a few moments, and when you feel comfortable enough to tell me a little bit about your problem, I'll listen. So a few moments went by, and then he said, I'm a nothing. I said, why do you say you're a nothing? He says, well, what am I? I'm not a child. I'm not an adult. I'm a nothing. And it dawned upon me how correct he was. Nature doesn't know adolescence. In primitive people, there is no adolescence. There's puberty rights, where a minor becomes an adult. And lahavdel of havdalas and Torah, at the age of bas mitzvah or bar mitzvah, a child becomes an adult. And the significance of that is that for a child, the child can't be responsible. Parents are responsible for the child. An adult is responsible for oneself. So civilization came along and had to create this monstrosity called adolescence, where a person is not a child. Parents can't be responsible for him. He's too big. I can't control him. And yet, can you hold him responsible for his own? No, he's not an adult yet. So he's a nothing. And he's not responsible for himself. And the problem is that not only is this a period of irresponsibility, so they had to set up with a whole new system of juvenile law, which is also very confusing. And to make it even worse, depending where you are, depends when you can become an adult, and for what. For some things, for driver's license, you may have to be 16, or maybe across the border in another state you have to be 18, right? And for marriage, yeah, in one state it may be 18, the other is 21. In terms of getting care for yourself medically, or refusing care medically, in some states it's age 14. So this whole hodgepodge of confusions that young people have no idea who they are, what's expected of them, and what's even worse, there's no responsibility. And what is particularly bad about that is that once a person has experienced a period of no responsibility, right, he may never recover from it. And so that even when he's 45, he may still not bear full responsibility, because there was once a time in his life when he wasn't responsible. And that's the problem that civilization has created with adolescence. Okay. But in addition to everything else, we now have a problem with a very serious problem. And it's talking about the temptations that we face as adolescents and the temptations that we face as adults. We have the ability to resist temptations. There's a Yetzer Hara, and everybody has a Yetzer Hara. You have one, I have one. My friends, I want you to know something. If you don't remember anything else from what I say tonight, please remember this. This is not the same world that it once was. It's not the same world that I grew up in. It's not the same world that some of you grew up in. And even though some of you are very young, the world changes from day to day. And I wish I could say that it changes for the better.